If you're in your 20s right now, this video could literally change the trajectory of your entire life, because what I'm about to tell you are the biggest mistakes that 99% of people make in their 20s, mistakes that cost them decades of regret, missed opportunities, and mediocrity. I wish someone had told me this when I was 22. It would have saved me years of wandering and confusion. But here's the thing. If you're watching this right now, you're already ahead of most people your age. You're seeking growth instead of just existing. Your 20s aren't just another decade, they're the decade. The choices you make right now will echo through your 30s, 40s, and beyond. Welcome to Midlife Insights. Grab a coffee, reflect on life, learn from age. In today's video, we're not just talking about mistakes, we're talking about patterns. The kind that ruin potential before it ever becomes purpose. So take a breath, and let's dive into the 7 deadly sins of your 20s, and more importantly, what to do instead. Mistake number 1. Waiting for motivation to strike before you take action. Here's how a lot of people think in their 20s. I'll start working out when I feel motivated. I'll launch that side business when inspiration hits. I'll learn that new skill when I'm in the right mood. It sounds harmless, but it's backwards thinking. And it quietly kills your potential. Motivation is like a fair-weather friend. It shows up when things are easy and disappears when you need it most. Discipline, though? That's the loyal partner. The one who shows up even when you don't feel like it. I learned this the hard way. I spent 2 years preparing to start my YouTube channel. 2 years consuming content about content creation instead of actually creating anything. What finally got me started? A random Tuesday. I felt zero excitement. I just hit record, no plan, no script. That first video? It got 47 views. It wasn't good, but it existed. And that was everything. Because here's the truth about motivation. It comes after action, not before. Start doing something, even badly, and you create momentum. Momentum creates small results. Small results fuel motivation. That's the spiral you want. But you have to push it into motion. So instead of waiting for motivation, build systems, not just goals. Start small. Even 2 minutes counts. Stay consistent over intense. Celebrate the tiniest wins. Your 20s are a golden window for rewiring your brain. Neuroplasticity is on your side, but it only responds to repetition, not hesitation. Mistake number 2. Trying to please everyone and be liked by everyone. This one cuts deep because we're wired for connection. We want to belong. But here's the hard truth. When you try to please everyone, you end up pleasing no one, especially not yourself. You see this constantly in your 20s. Saying yes to every social plan even when you're burnt out. Choosing a career because it makes your parents proud, not because it lights you up. Holding back in conversations just to avoid conflict, even when your voice matters. This isn't kindness, it's quiet self-abandonment. I did this too. I spent 3 years in a job I hated because I didn't want to disappoint my parents. 3 years of my life, gone. All because I was more afraid of their temporary disappointment than my permanent unhappiness. But when I finally quit to pursue entrepreneurship, they were disappointed for 2 weeks. Then they saw my joy, my growth, and my momentum. And now, they're my biggest supporters. People-pleasing feels safe. But research shows it comes with a cost. Higher anxiety and depression, lower self-esteem, shallow relationships, because no one sees the real you. Career stagnation and burnout. Your 20s are the time to start building a spine, not just a smile. Instead of people-pleasing, define your core values and use them as your compass. Say, let me think about it instead of an automatic yes. Accept that some people won't like you, and that's okay. Surround yourself with people who love the real you, not the version who's always agreeable. Remember, you can't live an authentic life while wearing a mask. You weren't meant to fit in everywhere. You were meant to belong somewhere real. Mistake number 3. Comparing your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20. The comparison trap. And in your 20s, it's brutal. Because you're still figuring things out while the internet is showing you curated success stories 24/7. Social media makes this worse than ever. You scroll through highlight reels while living your behind the scenes. You see an entrepreneur celebrating their 6-figure month, but not the 3 years of ramen and self-doubt. You see the fitness influencer's body, but not the discipline, the 5 a.m. workouts, the relentless effort. Here's the damage. Comparison makes you feel behind. That sense of not enough leads to impulsive choices, giving up too soon, or chasing things that aren't even yours to want. I remember scrolling LinkedIn at 24, seeing people my age land director roles, and feeling like a failure. I was still figuring out who I was. What I didn't see was that many of those people were quietly miserable, climbing a ladder leaning against the wrong wall. Studies show that social comparison is one of the strongest predictors of unhappiness. And in your 20s, when you're still forming your identity, it's especially toxic. Here's what I wish I knew back then. Everyone is on a different timeline. Some people bloom early and fade out. Others start slow and build something extraordinary. Your job isn't to be ahead of others. It's to be ahead of who you were yesterday. The antidote to comparison? Limit social media, especially in the morning. Focus on your own metrics and progress. Celebrate your small wins. They matter. Remember that overnight success is often 7 years of invisible effort. Find mentors, not competitors. People who show you what's possible, not what you're missing. Your 20s aren't about having it all figured out. They're about figuring it out. Messy, slow, human. Your story is still unfolding, and it doesn't have to look like anyone else's. Mistake number 4, living for the weekend and choosing immediate gratification over lasting fulfillment. I get it. Your 20s feel like the last decade to be young and free. Everyone says, live it up, party hard, you have your whole life to be responsible. But here's what no one tells you. The habits you build in your 20s quietly become the foundation of your 30s and beyond. This isn't about never having fun. It's about understanding the compound effect, where tiny choices repeated over time build either a strong life or a fragile one. Let me paint you 2 pictures. Person A spends their 20s going out 3 nights a week, binging Netflix, sleeping in, and living paycheck to paycheck because YOLO. Person B still goes out, but once a week. They wake up early to work on creative projects. They read instead of scroll. They save a small portion of every paycheck. Both are enjoying life. But give it 10 years, their lives will look completely different. Some of my favorite memories from my 20s are nights out with friends. But some of the most important decisions I ever made were on quiet nights, staying in, building something that would later change my life. Your 20s are also when your metabolism starts to slow, even if your energy still feels endless. The health habits you do, or don't, build now will affect your focus, mental health, and vitality for decades. Here's a framework I wish I had embraced back then, the 80-20 rule. 80% of your time, invest in your future self. 20%, pure joy, rest, and play. This isn't about restriction, it's about intentional pleasure, so that your future self thanks you instead of wondering where all the time went. Practical steps. Track how you spend your time for 1 week. Notice what builds versus what only consumes. Set gentle boundaries around social media, streaming, and apps. Invest in experiences that grow you, not just distract you. Because yes, you can have anything you want in life, but you can't have everything you want right now. Mistake number 5, staying in your comfort zone. Your brain is still developing well into your mid-20s. You often have fewer responsibilities than you ever will again. You have energy, flexibility, room to fail and bounce back. If there's ever a time to stretch beyond what's familiar, it's now. But here's what I see so many people do. Stay in the same city they grew up in. Hang out with the same high school friends. Settle into a job that feels safe but drains their soul. Stick to what they know, and wonder why life feels smaller than they imagined. There's nothing wrong with stability. But if you never challenge yourself, you never uncover what you're capable of. At 23, I was terrified of public speaking, the kind of fear that made me nauseous. But I knew it was holding me back, so I joined Toastmasters and gave 1 talk a month for a year. I stumbled, my voice shook, I forgot entire lines. But by the end of that year, I had built one of the most valuable skills of my career. That one decision unlocked more opportunities than I could have imagined, in work, confidence, and connection. Studies show that people who regularly step outside their comfort zones are more creative and adaptable, better at handling stress, more confident, more likely to reach their goals. But here's how people stay stuck. Staying in jobs they've outgrown, avoiding new social circles, staying in their hometown out of fear, skipping travel because it feels uncomfortable, avoiding tough conversations or trying new skills, choosing what's easy, not what's growth. Here's your expansion plan. Every month, do one thing that makes you nervous. Say yes before you feel fully ready. Travel somewhere unfamiliar. Start conversations with strangers. Take on projects that stretch you. Apply for jobs that intimidate you. This isn't about being reckless. It's about calculated discomfort, the kind that expands your identity. Because every time you survive something you once feared, you become a little bolder, a little freer, and a lot more alive. Mistake number 6, treating your body and mind like they're indestructible. In your 20s, you bounce back easily. You can run on caffeine and 4 hours of sleep. You can eat garbage and still look okay. You ignore stress because you're young and tough. But that invincibility, it's an illusion, and the bill always comes due, sometimes slowly, sometimes all at once. What most people don't realize is this. Your 20s are when you're either building the foundation for lifelong health or quietly laying the groundwork for decades of future problems. The habits you form now, good or bad, become much harder to change later. I learned this the hard way. By 26, I had been running on stress, sugar, ambition, and adrenaline for years. No sleep, no movement, constant anxiety. And then I crashed. Hard. I couldn't focus for more than 10 minutes. I was exhausted, irritable, scattered. It hit me. All the ambition in the world means nothing if your mind is foggy and your body is breaking down. That's when I stopped treating health as a luxury and started treating it like a core business asset, because physical and mental health aren't separate. They're deeply connected. Poor physical health leads to brain fog, low energy, anxiety and depression, poor emotional regulation, weakened decision-making. Poor mental health leads to sleep problems, chronic inflammation, isolation and unhealthy coping, low immunity, higher risk of disease. You don't need a perfect routine, just a minimum viable health system that's consistent. Physical health, 7 to 9 hours of sleep, non-negotiable. Move for 30 minutes daily, walking counts. Eat real food most of the time. Stay hydrated. Schedule regular checkups. Mental health, daily stress management, journaling, meditation, breathing. Healthy boundaries with work and people. Unplug from screens regularly. Get therapy, not because you're broken, but because you're human. Prioritize deep, real relationships. Health is like wealth. The earlier you invest, the more it compounds. A 25-year-old who moves their body and protects their peace will live very differently at 50 than someone who starts at 45. Your 20s are your foundation decade. Build wisely. Mistake number 7, and maybe the most important, not investing in yourself when you have the most time and energy for high returns. In your 20s, it's tempting to spend on things that feel exciting in the moment. New clothes, gadgets, expensive dinners, weekend getaways. But here's the shift. Most of those things depreciate. What you want to spend on is what appreciates. Things that make you grow, stretch, and become more valuable over time. Your earning power is lowest right now, but your learning potential is at its peak. I still remember spending $2,000 on an online marketing course at 24. It was more than half my savings at the time. People told me I was crazy. Can't you learn that on YouTube for free? But here's what they didn't see. It wasn't just about the content. It was the structure, the accountability, the mental shift that came from choosing to invest in myself. That single course helped me triple my income within 2 years. That's the power of self-investment. The highest ROI areas in your 20s? Skills, writing and communication, public speaking and presentations, emotional intelligence and leadership, financial literacy, digital skills, coding, data, marketing, AI tools, experiences, travel to places that stretch you, networking events and conferences, high-challenge projects or internships, mentorship, even if informal, online or in-person workshops, health wellness, therapy or coaching, fitness programs, nutrition education, sleep and stress recovery systems. Here's where people go wrong. They wait for extra money, but there's never a perfect time. They only value formal degrees, but life-changing growth happens outside classrooms. They undervalue soft skills. Even though relationships and confidence drive long-term success, they don't measure ROI, not just in money, but in clarity, creativity, and confidence. Your 20s aren't just about finding yourself, they're about building yourself. Every skill you develop, every connection you nurture, every challenge you grow through, is a brick in the foundation of the life you're building. Start stacking now. The 20s Framework. We've covered the 7 most common regrets people carry from their 20s. But awareness alone isn't enough. You need a roadmap to do things differently. I call this the 20s Framework. 4 pillars to guide your choices and keep you anchored as life speeds up. Pillar 1. Experiment and explore. Say yes to opportunities that stretch you. Try different careers, hobbies, and environments. Travel and see how other people live, think, and love. Date thoughtfully, not to find the one, but to discover what you value. Pillar 2. Build and create. Develop skills that grow with you. Start side projects, not for perfection, but for practice. Create more than you consume. Build real relationships, not just connections. Pillar 3. Invest and compound. Prioritize health, learning, and meaningful experiences. Start saving. Even small amounts build big habits. Build routines that serve your future self. Teach what you learn. It deepens your understanding. Pillar 4. Reflect and iterate. Check in with yourself often. Are you proud of the path you're on? Journal, meditate, walk without your phone. Listen to yourself. Ask for feedback from mentors or trusted friends. Be willing to pivot. Life isn't linear, and you're allowed to grow out of old dreams. This decade isn't about perfection. It's about intention. Let every decision either help you explore who you are or build who you want to become. Closing reflection. Your 20s aren't a dress rehearsal. This is your life, and it's happening now. Not after the next job, the next relationship, or the next wave of motivation. Every day you spend waiting, shrinking, or settling is a day you can't get back. But here's the hopeful part. If you're here, watching, listening, reflecting, you're already ahead. You care. You're awake. You're choosing growth over autopilot, and that matters more than you know. So here's what I invite you to do. 1. Pick one mistake from this video that spoke to you. 2. Choose one small step you can take today to shift it. 3. Share in the comments. What will your future self thank you for? 4. Send this video to one person you care about. Someone who might need this reminder too. If this video helped you pause, reflect, or think more clearly, subscribe and tap the bell. Every week, we share grounded strategies for life, growth, and building something meaningful. Because your 20s aren't about having all the answers. They're about asking better questions, trying, failing, adjusting, and moving forward anyway. Don't let this decade pass in a blur. Make your future self proud.